You've got this thesis or theory that things like the Lightning Network or Taro will end up actually serving as some sort of tailwind, similar to maybe cloud computing coming out of the 2008 global financial crisis. First, let's start with how do you view Lightning and Taro, and then why do you think that they could serve as this kind of tailwind coming out of this bear market?
So when we're looking at the space of startups, when we're looking at the startup ecosystem, we really want to understand the dynamics that exist around it to allow companies to thrive and to really build large enterprise to have a cultural impact. And so ahead of Stillmark even launching, what was important, the trigger event for Stillmark to launch as a Bitcoin-focused fund was the advancement of SegWit on Bitcoin Core. And as you know, and probably most of your audience knows, that one of the ramifications of SegWit was that we could have this much more robust Lightning Network, Bitcoin's payment network, grow atop of Bitcoin. And so Stillmark launched right after we saw that SegWit would gain adoption and integration with First Explorer apps. Now, the same opportunity, I think, exists with Taro. So Taro is a new protocol introduced by Lightning Labs, developed, innovated by Lalu, otherwise known as roast beef. And what Taro does is it allows for assets, digital assets, to be traded on the Lightning Network, so peer-to-peer. And what I'm most excited about is seeing digital dollars on Lightning Network. And I think we've all been waiting to see Tether on Lightning, or Tether with the capability to be traded instantly and nearly for free. And now by the end of this year, I expect that will be possible via Taro. Now, this sort of links to some of the adoption activity that we saw in 2021, right? Where we saw Lightning Network help introduce Bitcoin in emerging markets. And what really captured the headlines, of course, in 2021 was El Salvador adopting Bitcoin. All of that economic activity happened on top of Lightning Network. And so it was a chance to do two really critical things. First, it tested Lightning Network at scale. Could Lightning Network work when it wasn't just, a bunch of Bitcoiners sending, when it wasn't just speaking tech to tech, when real world people that weren't thinking about Bitcoin 24/7 were using it? And the answer was a resounding yes. It worked beautifully at scale. The second opportunity that we had from El Salvador's launch of Bitcoin was to actually get feedback through adoption, through real world adoption. And so some of that feedback was, of course, that Lightning Network was a really valuable tool, especially for people that were underbanked. But beyond that, what we heard was that Bitcoin's volatility right now is hard to handle. So if you are making $400 a month, if your expenses range between $390 a month and $410, to handle Bitcoin's volatility is really difficult. It's hard to keep your family safe and well-resourced. And so what Taro does is it responds to that. It allows you to use Lightning Network, to use Bitcoin really, while not being exposed to Bitcoin's volatility. And that makes sense for a lot of lower socioeconomic status populations.
Talk to me more about the Lightning Network and kind of bringing Bitcoin to all these emerging markets. I think that the Lightning Network is a very unique story in that, one, it didn't receive tons and tons of hype because it didn't raise venture capital. There is no kind of native token to it, so there wasn't a token sale or anything like that. It feels like it's continued to grow organically under the radar. How important is that as kind of a key way to make sure that the right people are building on it and the right people are adopting it that are going to be here for the long term?
Well, here's what you can do when you don't have a token, right? You can actually respond and get clear signal from users. So you can respond to true user feedback. When there's a token, of course, the activity that you see from users it's very noisy. So a lot of users, when they're participating in a token-driven ecosystem, are there to speculate on the token. And because Lightning doesn't have that, when it launches in a new market or is integrated in a new app, we can really see from that user base the value that they get from the protocol, from the technology. And with that, then we can rapidly innovate, and that's what you're seeing. So that's exactly what happened with Taro. We saw this really beautiful adoption to infrastructure development feedback loop. So you introduce the new infrastructure, in this case, Lightning Network, to a user group. They adopt it, You can watch their behavior and engagement metrics. From that, you can discern feedback, and then that drives the next cycle of development and innovation in the infrastructure side. So Taro is really a beautiful example of that. Now, in terms of who should be building on Lightning, 2021 was amazing to see this because there was really a sort of shift in terms of the diversity of who was building. So while in earlier cycles we had Bitcoiners building, and a lot of these folks are just so brilliant, they're really almost like Bitcoin native thinkers somehow. In 2021, though, the dev tools and the environment was more mature. And so we were able to see people that were not religiously Bitcoin, or were not building because it was Bitcoin, but we're building something within their space of expertise that could be benefited or advanced by Bitcoin and by Lightning. And so that was a shift we saw last year that I think will continue to drive the space forward in 2022.